The arena stirred with an excitable lull as the Grandmaster prepared his spells. Special magic that confined reality to a small bubble, preventing death but giving the crowd and participants full strength within its borders. The magic aura swirled and swayed around the arena. Orbs of light and bursts of energy saturated the area in a kaleidoscope of colors. The crowds roared excitedly as two wizards, Master Claude and Master Amartis, entered the arena. Claude, relatively young for his level of skill, is a human. 35 years of age, but looks much older due to his robes and magic-induced beard, nervously enters the arena, his green robe scraping against the dirt floor. Amartis is a practiced and well-renowned elven master of magic, his resplendent blue robes gilded with the trophies of countless victories. Trumpets sounded, and the battle began in earnest. As is tradition, the newcomer starts. Claude prepared himself and cast his first ward, his hands moving in a pattern representing a shield. He cast his ward, and for a brief second a dome of energy flowed around him. Master Amartis's ears twitched in anticipation. He likewise cast his own ward, green in hue and substantially more powerful. The two stared each other down. The sound of a gong reverberated through the air, cutting the tension as Claude cast the first spell. "Inferno!" he commanded, swirling his hands to mimic the movements of a burning flame. A sphere of fire and flame appeared in his palm. He focused, his eyes steady and locked on his target as he readied the spell. His hands blurred as the spell was cast. The ball of flame charged forward and with surprising speed blasted towards the elven mage. He braced himself, knowing full well just how powerful some human mages could be. He was no fool and concentrated on dissipating the energy of the blast as it hurtled towards him. He did not flinch as the ball of flame impacted his magical shield. His opponent was powerful indeed despite his age and race, as the shield in front of him visibly warped and rippled to absorb the impact. The ward held firm, and Master Amartis prepared his retaliation. The crowd gasped in awe as the fireball engulfed the shield, impacting it like a large cannonball before dissipating. The crowd applauded at the display as the flames gently licked at the walls of the arena. Amartis readied himself and prepared his best weapon. His hands moved in a blur of activity as he prepared a combination flame and lightning spell. His left hand formed the crest of a flame, his right hand the bolt of lightning. The energy of his magic swirled around the arena, the energy potential so potent that orbs of lightning and fire darted around him. The orbs sparked against metal objects and scarred the floor with heat. "Elemental fury!" he bellowed, clapped his hands and sent the combination towards Claude. The spell took the form of a solid bolt of pure flame energy, burning white-hot and glistening with electricity. Claude's ward barely held together, the energy bubble rippling viciously from the impact and dispersing against the arena wall. Claude concentrated, forcing his ward to redirect the energy rather than absorb it. It worked, and though he struggled, he managed to hold. The spell dissipated but left scars, the impact points to Claude's left and right, now showing the walls had partially melted. Claude readied himself, taking a deep breath. The crowd applauded and took a moment to enjoy the display. No foolish boasting, no pompous talking, no arrogant displays, just a beautiful concert of magic between two masters of their craft. Claude readied a spell, a distraction and lightning spell, a devastating combination nobody expected. His left hand waved with a gentle flow like water in a river, while his right hand moved with the speed of lightning in jagged lines. Claude's left hand burst forward and a wall of water flooded towards the elven master, the tide of liquid impacting with the force of a flash flood. It was but simple water, so the deflection was meaningless. Claude concentrated, his water flood surrounding the ward seemingly harmlessly. The crowd let out a chuckle at the display, seemingly confused as to the spell's reasoning. Master Amartis was cautious and did not fall for the provocation, maintaining his concentration. Caution was well rewarded as the lightning spell Claude had suddenly unleashed. The bolt of electricity blasted forward, releasing a loud thunderclap through the arena and impacted the water flood. Master Amartis, though guarded, was caught in the provocation and his ward dissipated. The blast of electricity was carried through the water and overwhelmed the magic sphere, a massive blast of electricity fully covering all sides, amplified by the water spell and overwhelming him, causing the ward to ripple and fail. The ward failing made the spell dissipate and explode, puddles of slightly electrified water splashing in every direction. "Very good, Claude! Very good! I didn't actually see that one coming! You have to teach me that one!" Amartys said as he readied himself for his own attempt to disable Master Claude's ward. "I learned from the best after all! Your move, sir!" he said with a polite bow and returned to stance. The pair eyed each other for a moment. Amartys waved his hands, readying a spell Claude had never seen before, and steadied himself for the coming onslaught. Amartys's hands twisted and flowed like wind and water before the arena's temperature suddenly dipped below freezing. Amartys jumped from his stable spot and charged forward as a gigantic sword made of crystallized ice formed in his hands. With no effort, he leapt into the air and slammed the gigantic blade down onto his opponent. Claude was caught off guard by the sudden assault, and his ward failed. Both spells dissipated, with the ice blade shattering on impact and blasting the elf back to his spot. The crowd roared in excitement from the display, and glorious applause echoed through the arena. The two wizards readied themselves, the limit of one ward spell per 5 turns still in effect. Claude held fast and steadied himself, knowing just how many tricks his ancient master could bring against him. Amartys was now on high alert as Claude's trick with the water made him think this young blood was more than he seemed. Claude had his turn and began to move his hands wide and direct, his fingertips forming tight angles and chanting all the while. The magical energy swirled and swayed, blue, purple, and red lights congealing into a golem of metal and rock, armed with a large broadsword. Claude stayed still and stared his opponent down. Amartys, always willing for an even fight, chanted his own summoning spell, and a wooden and stone golem armed with a magic bow appeared. The two beasts took aim at each other. The crowd gasped in awe as the pair of master-crafted summons squared up. Claude's golem was the first to break, aiming its giant sword and charging like a knight on a horse at his target. Amartys's golem prepared to hop back to dodge the blade and loosed an arrow at it. The arrow hit its target and embedded itself in the metal golem's left arm, a magic curse causing it to freeze instantly, then dislodging the arm from its socket. The golem's sword disappeared along with its arm, but the charge continued in earnest. Amartys realized he made a mistake far too late as the 10-ton metal construct charged at it. Amartys's golem was struck with more force than necessary, pinned into the wall with enough force to disable it before Claude's own golem, no longer able to move due to the damage, dissipated into the ether. The crowd stood and gave Claude's excellent tactics a round of applause, as did Master Amartys, who likewise couldn't help but clap at the display. "I've seen those tactics before. Was that the nothing-to-lose thing you humans used against my ancestry? I see how it was so effective," he said. "Yeah, and it worked then. Still works now, apparently. Kind of the reason we're here in a golden age, aren't we?" Claude said with a knowing smirk. Oh, it's on now," Amartys replied with his own smirk. The crowd chuckled along with them, and the two squared up, both of them still having more than enough mana to continue for hours to come. This time, however, Amartys's resolve failed him as a mass volley of fireballs, ice spikes, and lightning bolts in a spell he had never seen before overwhelmed him. The sheer volume of small spells and small projectiles pouring from Claude's hands was breaking his concentration and distracting him. Too many to count. Too many to counter. His deflection magic was not keeping up. Claude maintained the relentless assault until finally, Claude found his opening, and through the swarm, a bolt of electricity struck the elven master in the arm. Amartys was hit with such force, he vanished in a flash of light, leaving only a glowing residue on the floor. The crowd stood silent, Claude finally noticing his victory before he changed, and readied some healing and resurgence spells to bring his old master back in case the arena's magic failed. Silence remained, and the Grandmaster reinforced his reality-bending spell with a cheeky wave just in case. Suddenly, a swirling vortex appeared. A dark mist of magical energy congealed itself around the residue, and Master Amartys reappeared in the arena from it. "Oh, that one hurt. Modern tactics, eh? Can't hit the enemy with precision, so you overwhelm them with numbers? You have to teach me that volley spell," he said, receiving a volley of laughter and applause from the crowd. "I certainly will if you teach me that ice blade spell. That was incredible." "You okay?" Claude asked. "I am quite all right, dear sir. Your turn," Amartys replied with a grin as his eyes started to glow blue. Claude realized he had angered him as the magic from his opponent built up in the arena. The sound of swirling crystalline formations slicing through the air as a spell of crystal and ice began to form. Claude swallowed nervously as he readied a deflection spell, a spell that did almost nothing. Amartys got his vengeance for his previous loss as he tested poor Claude by slinging one crystal shard, then two, then three, making them swirl around the mage for a minute. Once Amartys was satisfied he had sufficiently demonstrated his control, poor Claude was engulfed by a swirling vortex of crystal and ice before being pinned to the arena wall by projections. The crowd gasped in awe, then allowed a moment of revelry as they applauded the display. As Claude himself reappeared, he too couldn't help but clap in response at the immeasurable amount of control and concentration it took to pull a spell like that off. "Keeping our old tricks in our back pocket, are we?" Claude said with a grin. "Oh, come on. You know some traditions never die," he replied. The pair shared a knowing grin with each other as the crowd nervously chuckled at the unconventional joke. Claude's turn came again, once more summoning his signature metal golem, this time armed with a warhammer. Amartys wasted no time and readied one of his most potent ice blast spells. A combination of both concentration and his resolve, mixed, of course, with his surprisingly good mood, created one of the most potent ice spikes he had ever produced. The spell caught Claude completely off guard as the spire of ice pierced straight through the golem's metal body and towards Claude's startled face. In a panic before impact, he managed out one final spell before his head met the arena wall. The spell successfully cast as a sort of Hail Mary attempt, and a strange ball of goop appeared on the arena floor shortly before Claude's body dissipated for resurrection. Amartys looked at the odd puddle of goop in front of him slowly congealing. Suddenly, as Claude began to remanifest, the puddle rapidly congealed into the form of a humanoid crocodile standing on its hind legs, wearing a purple shirt and baseball cap, armed with twin arcane projectors with extended magazine equivalents, linked by a reflex sight. "Surprise, old-timer!" the croc yelled in an unmistakable urban accent before unleashing its magical barrage at the shocked Master Wizard. Having no chance to retaliate or even prepare, Master Amartys was hit with a full magical barrage from twin arcane projectors with extended magic reservoirs. Master Amartys lay dumbfounded and unable to process what just happened as he dissipated, the crocodile taking a victory lap. "You in my turf now! This my domain! Yeah! That's what you get!" "Tony!" Claude yelled above the creature's noise. Claude stood there in shame, his head in his hands as Tony the Croco waddled over to him. Master Amartys reappeared from his magical reconstitution and stood in the arena looking at the strange display wide-eyed and slack-jawed, still wondering what just occurred. "Hey, ya, boss! He was out of his league, right?" Tony yelled with enthusiasm. "You did good, Tony. Thanks. Always count on you, can't I? You still up for the barbecue next weekend?" Claude asked. "You know it. Peace," Tony said, fist bumping his friend before vanishing in a poof of smoke. Claude remained ashamed, the same man who once wore a full series of anime Catgirl merchandise to class with no regrets, stood there in shame with his head in his hands. "What? What?" Amartys asked half-heartedly. "I'm sorry, you can have that one. I forfeit that point to you. I'm sorry, I panicked. I saw the ice spire coming and I panicked. I'll give you that one. I'm sorry," Claude said, nervously shuffling. "Okay, calm. I'll forgive if you tell me what that spell even was," Amartys asked. Claude nervously shuffled in place for a bit. "Well, I was going through some personal issues a few months ago. I got distracted while practicing spell-making and, started browsing online humor. Then silliness happened. Before I knew it, I had an arsenal of joke spells. That one was from an internet video from back in the day. Tony the Croco with arcane projectors. So, yeah." Master Amartys likewise held his head in his hands, sharing second-hand shame. Amartys released a big, silly sigh and waved his hand, summoning a small pseudo-goblin as a target. "Okay, give us another one. I haven't seen joke magic before, so this will be enlightening. Go on, give it your best shot." Claude stood stunned for a bit as his master walked to his side and waited. He shrugged and started a new spell. A bit of chanting and a nervous hiccup. A flying, enchanted commode appeared among a swirl of energy for a split second, then charged forward with incredible speed, impacting the poor, unfortunate goblin with such force its legs and arms detached, comically hung in the air for a few seconds, then flopped onto the ground. An enchanted toilet at maximum velocity? Amartys asked. Yeah, Claude replied as he hung his head in shame. Well, I'm half irritated and half impressed. You made internet jokes into actual destructive spells that would be a humiliating loss for any wizard to face if he never saw it coming. On the other hand, I'm very annoyed at the prospect that these spells even exist in the first place, Amartys said, giving poor Claude a side glance. I'm sorry, I was sad and depressed. It wasn't a good time. I should have been focusing instead of spell making. Let's see. Oh, I know one. Cheese for everyone? Claude's spell summoned an enormous, house-sized wheel of cheese hovering above the poor goblin's head. For a split second, the summoned creature realized what was about to happen, and everyone in the crowd could see for a split second the despair in its eyes before it was flattened by an enormous weight of cheddar with a resounding thud. Now there was an enormous wheel of cheese in the arena that didn't go away. So, that one is Sheo's curse. Sheo Gorath, the Elder Scrolls god of madness. Yeah, cheese for everyone. Yeah, Claude said, still nervously shuffling. The cheese wheel started levitating and made its way to the Grandmaster's viewing box. The Grandmaster took a knife and cut a chunk out of it, tasting it. Well, that's really, really good cheddar. After classes this week, you will teach me this spell. His voice bellowed through the arena. The crowd finally snapped, and a gale of hysterical laughter overcame everyone, as the Grandmaster started to use his own magic to cut up the cheese wheel and distribute it to the now jubilant patrons of the arena. It was indeed very good cheese. Amartys summoned one more goblin and waited for Claude to make his next move. Oh, I know, my favorite, Claude said. He used his magic to levitate the goblin and at an angle out of the arena aimed a new spell at him. Dragon's Roar! The legendary battle cry blasted through the arena with a thunderous roar and threw the goblin into the air and out of the arena, landing forcefully on the ground outside. Master Amartys stood stoic and calm for a moment. Okay, I admit, I want that one, he said with a chuckle, making Claude feel slightly less ashamed. How did you manage that shout? A combination of sonomancy and wind blast magic. Use the sound blast to augment the wind blast, creating a sonic pulse that blasts objects away. It's the same principle used in the electric water spout spell I used to disable your ward. Simple use of physics and thermodynamics. Claude replied in earnest. Well, if it's that simple, maybe I can... Master Amartys stayed quiet for a time and concentrated. He summoned a goblin as a target, then yelled, Curse of the Iron Steed! Before a small, magical armored construct appeared and charged at the poor creature, crushing it and slamming into the wall. It was Claude's turn to be annoyed and disgusted as he gazed at his magic teacher of 15 years. Master Amartys shrugged. You're not the only one here with an array of silly spells. Before this, I never really got the chance to deploy them properly. Your strange way of combining magics makes it that much easier to cast them, he said as he casually returned to his spot on the other side of the arena. Thanks. I thought, in which case, 3-1-2-4, I declare a joke spell war, Amartys bellowed and cast a spell at Claude. Amartys summoned an enormous corgi spirit armed with an oversized bat, which charged at Claude and yelled, Bonk! Magic jail! Before slamming the bat onto Claude's head, knocking him out. Claude reappeared to a gale of hysterical laughter from the crowd. Oh, so that's how it is, eh? Fine! Claude waved his hands, and a swirling vortex of dark energy, mixed with the menacing roar of magical energy, swirled in front of him. The ball of dark energy charged forward towards Master Amartys, and suddenly stopped just short. It dissipated and produced a magical image of a dancing bard. Never gonna let you down. Amartys had just been magically pranked. The crowd collapsed into the stands in a gale of hysterics. Even the Grandmaster couldn't help himself and collapsed out of his seat from laughing too hard. The two continued to battle with joke spells for the next hour, before finally their mana reserves depleted. The two men just shook hands, then went to the tavern to celebrate along with the crowd. If you love engaging stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest episodes from FY Stories.